and we are recording on YouTube and podcast. For those of you who are tuning in today, the classroom, Dr. Porter, our teacher in the classroom, is going to teach us how to go into deep, deep, deep meditation within a short period of time. He's got the science to back him up, and I've got the headset to prove it. I am so in love with BrainTap. This is one of my obsessions, and we're going to talk about how you can take your brain to optimal performance. So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. Here we go. It's time to dance, Dr. Porter.
Okay. You mean really dance?
Really dance. Oh, is that how you're going to dance? Okay.
If I move.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyounneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and my viewing friends on Facebook.com/Lillian's radio show. I am so grateful that we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, classroom/classroom, maybe because someone tagged you today or said you need to listen to this life-changing class today, then please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to live the life of your dreams and embrace a new truth while you're doing it. You know, there's so many times in our lives that we are taught something that is so impactful that it's life-changing, not only for yourself, but for everybody who will encounter you from that point on. And so you may have heard me talk about my latest obsession. This is the first time I get to share I am like loving this. I've shared this with so many people, and it's been life-changing. This is called BrainTap. And I learned about BrainTap a year ago, and again, got reacquainted with Dr. Patrick Porter back about last year sometime. So it's been 2 years that I met Dr. Patrick Porter, and we kind of like weren't able to make it work the first year we met. But the second year, I just latched onto him like a tick. And I said, I am not letting you go this time. We are going to share this information. I want all of you to know that today, we're going to be giving a 15-day trial with the brain tapping. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this before, so I want to share with you. So it's time for me to share it with you, my listening and viewing friends, about how if you've ever wanted to share change your thoughts, your behaviors, today is the time. Today is the day, because BrainTap, this little thing that you see here, I'm going to turn it on so that I can razzle dazzle you. Look at the lights. So this is something that I've been doing now since October of last year, 3 times a day. Like, I am just obsessed. And I'm not going to go into all of this yet, because I want to tell you that the creator, Dr. Patrick Porter, Ph.D., he began his journey into the science of calming the brain at age 12. He recorded his first, at age 12, he recorded his first visualization cassette recorder, and he used it to transform himself from a self-professed struggling student and storied troublemaker into a 3-sport athlete, captain as well, athletic captain, as well as an honor roll student. Dr. Porter will share how BrainTap can help us relax and reboot and revitalize while we achieve peak brain performance. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I'm so grateful that finally, after 2 years, we finally get to have Dr. Patrick Porter in the classroom. Thank you so much, Dr. Porter, for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good that we got associated here and getting it out to your group. This is wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. And you did a great job dancing, I must add. You must have tapped yourself.
Yeah, when I was in India, they taught me how to do Punjabi dancing, but I didn't get up and do that. But that's they've been my followers are going to think I'm a dancer now or something. I don't know.
well, let's talk about more than just the dancer that you are. How you became fascinated with the brain. How did that change your life? Again, I mentioned a little bit about it, but how it led you to creating this wonderful healing modality.
Yeah, well, there was a series of situations that would take us an hour to go through, so I'm going to abbreviate it here. But I met the group that started it was a clinical unit called the SILS, and I partnered with them in Scottsdale, Arizona years ago, and we were going to make another clinical model, and they basically weren't getting it to the finish line, and then they brought me one of the prototypes. And I said, you know what, I think I could sell these because my patients need something at home, and it's affordable because the clinical model was $10,000. So we started using them out of our Scottsdale office, and then it was one of those things people really need to experience. That's why the 15-day trial is so important. And then, but when they experienced it, we started finding that, hey, doctors wanted to help sell it. People wanted to start selling it and start sharing it with their family and friends because it helped me. I think that if my mother was really into nutrition. So she didn't want us to get on Ritalin and all the other drugs that were popular back then. She wanted to find a way to help us. So my dad became a Silva instructor. I began to learn about 10-cycle relaxation using what's called GSR, galvanic skin response. And then that series of events, when I was able to connect with the people at Light and Sound Research and be a part of that group, I thought, wow, I found my home. And then now I'm the only one standing with this part left of that group because I took the torch, if you will, and ran with it through a franchise company. I sold that in 2006. And then in 2014, I came out with a BrainTap because I felt like the industry wasn't evolving. And I had some ideas and some concepts. When you showed them the light in the ears, that's an innovation that no one else has. And it's not just lights, guys. There's red and blue light, but there's also frequencies that we know the body responds to. Your body is always responding to its environment. So we'll probably talk more about that later. Mm-hmm. So we found a way to actually help people that in the past we couldn't help, which was the autistic community. And then once we found it worked for them, why not use it for everyone? Because everyone can use this, get out of we have this brain that we have, this survival brain, and then we have this healing brain. And we want to turn on the healing brain because unfortunately, too many people are in the high stress world of survival. And we need to get out of survival so we can have the kind of life that we want. And like your theme song says, show up with the best you today. And you can do that even better if you don't carry all that stress of yesterday into this moment.
Yeah. And so a little bit about your background. You studied the brain. Share a little bit about your education and what led you to say, I can change this and I can make a difference.
Well, it started first with, I went to school for Christian psychology and just helping people get their life back. And I found out that was fulfilling, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And I went to school for electronics. So I thought, how can I marry these two loves I have? I'm a techie kind of person. I would have been called a geek probably if that was popular back then. And so I started to play around with how does light and sound affect the brain? And I did this first really for pain control. And then we found out, hey, if you're working with pain control, this also affects the learning program. We have something called hypermnesia when we get into the brainwave states of alpha and theta. And music can do this alone. Sound therapy had been doing it. But in 1986, we were exposed to programmable LED light. And now we could mimic actually the frequencies of nature. And that's really what we're doing. That's why a lot of people call me a biohacker, because we have, we get into that community, because the light frequency changes. Your brain follows those. And so as you do that, what the whole key here is, how can we balance the brain and do that? And then I took training in neurolinguistic programming in my we call it positive psychology, which is now popular. We don't use negative programming. I have a book called Discover the Language of the Mind, and I go over 13 core techniques that we used in our franchise company, which was, we had 108 locations. We were featured in every major magazine you could think of. The People magazine is probably the most famous, because people can lose weight by boosting their metabolism by retraining their brain. So that's part of what we did. But I've never not learning, because my dad was very adamant about, if you stop learning, you start rotting. So every day, like even this past weekend, I was here in Arizona, which I'm still here, but I went to a convention. It was a Brimhall homecoming. It was awesome. But I got to sit in there and learn from some of the greatest minds in nutrition. And they use ours, because nutrition alone, as great as it is, can't do it. You need the mind, body, spirit connection. And so we kind of help them, especially one key point, just so everybody understands it. If you're in that survival brain, your body can't metabolize the great nutrition you're taking. So you could be taking the world's greatest supplements and just eliminating it. So we need to get the body relaxed so it can accept the nutrients that you're giving it, whether it's from, now can't change unhealthy foods, so you still have to eat healthy foods, but it can, if you're eating healthy foods and you're still stressed out, you don't get the benefits of those. So we have to work together that way, the mind-body connection there.
A lot of people don't understand. They just want to treat the body and just want to do whatever they can to the body. But that connection with the mind and the spirit is where it all magically happens. And Dr. Lee Cowden, I've said this before, when he comes on, he says, if we could just, heal the spirit and the mind, the body will follow. That's healing very inexpensively. It'll follow what it's being told to do by the spirit and the mind. And so when I found BrainTap, and when I met you for the first time, Dr. Porter, it was at an iridology convention. It was over a year ago, so it's almost a year and a half ago. And the talk that you gave was so compelling that it made me want to try it. And right from the beginning, when I tried it, I knew that this was special. So thank you so much for being a techie geek, whatever you want to call it. But you had to marry those two in order to be able to do this. I wanted to show real quick. I don't know if you can see this, and I will turn this up a bit because I just recently learned. So these, I don't know if you can see the flashing lights.
Yeah,
and of course you have this works with the meridians, and so of the ear. And so we've talked about things like this in the past, but I've never had anything together that is so, let me just turn this off, that is so robust. So that's the word I guess I want to use. So let's understand the brain. Let's talk about the brain and why you can rewrite the program in the brain. Let's talk about the epigenetics.
Yeah. Well, Bruce Lipton, who's one of our instructors at Quantum University, he talks about how language can change up to 1,200 gene expressions. So what you have to understand is you are an expression of DNA. You're not the sum total of your parents. In fact, only 20% of your parents really play a role in who you are. It's what you eat, who you hang around with, what you say to yourself. Mm-hmm. It more has to do with what you're thinking than most people even believe. Yeah. And so part of that is you can change that gene expression. One research project they did was they took people doing visualization, and they took half the group and they did the visualization, half the group they didn't for addiction. At the end of the 30-day protocol, they found out that the people doing the addiction protocol with the visualization changed over 300 gene expressions that had directly to do with addiction. The others had no change. So if you don't change your thinking, you're not going to change your life. So there's a saying in alcoholism called dry alcoholics. And so they're not drinking, but they still have the same attitudes, the same beliefs. Eventually, it's like a ticking time bomb. Something is going to trigger those old behaviors, because those old behaviors are stronger until we use the new training to reformat that part of the brain. And your brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So we can use language to stimulate images. There's a saying I have, you get what you rehearse in life, not what you intend. So, everybody knows what the road to hell is paved with. And we all, in fact, New Year's Day, everybody made all these resolutions. And statistically speaking, over 95% of those people are already done with them.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't do anything to prepare themselves. There's not an actor or an actress on the planet. There's not a sports professional that doesn't visualize, role play their sport or their acting. We should be doing that in our own life, so that we get around our family and friends and we create the love and the experiences that we plan for that, so we're not reacting. The reactionary mind can shut down gene expression, and then we go into default mode. We want to be open to infinite potentials instead of being formatted from our past to our present to our future.
That's beautiful. And so that awareness has created something called BrainTap. And so today, all of you, even people that live, because this is watched worldwide. So anyone that is anywhere in the world can take advantage of the 15-day free trial?
Yes, if you can get on the internet, you can download it, you can start using it today.
Okay, so the headset is important to have. However, you can still listen to the brain tapping, you can listen to the meditation without the headset. It's not as powerful. Is it as powerful?
Well, I'll kind of explain it this way. Sound is really powerful, but as soon as you close your eyes, the light is really important because it keeps the frontal lobe active. And when you get into stress, the first thing we typically do is shut down the frontal lobe because our brain doesn't want to deal with it. Yeah. There's the fight or flight, but before that, there's the freeze response. That's where procrastination comes in. It's actually hardwired into us. So we're going to bypass that. That's the hack. That's the first biohack that we're going to do. We're going to keep the brain thinking in the most critical times. Unfortunately, what happens to most people is at the most critical times when they need a solution the most, that thinking part of the brain shuts down. But with sound, what we can do is we can activate those areas. But with sound, we're losing about 30% of the neuroactivity. When we use visual, we do a lot with a group called it's the Neurological Ophthalmology Research Association. Okay. And over the years, we've learned a few things. One is your eyes control 30% of your hearing.
Wow.
So if you've ever been to a lecture and you couldn't hear the lecturer, but then you adjusted your vision until you could get a line of sight of the speaker, now you could hear them. That's because our primitive reflexes, basically we filter out all the other noise. It's like being in a busy restaurant and you're talking and everybody's having a good conversation. And then something you're really, let's say that you're a doctor of chiropractic, for instance, and you're sitting in there and then somebody 3 tables over says, I went to my chiropractor. You hear that because chiropractor is part of your reticular activating system and it triggers. But other than that, your brain's filtering that out, because if we took in all of our sensory-based information and had to make decisions on all of it, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So the sound does do training because sound is so important. It can balance the brain. It can help the nervous system. Light does a lot of other things that I'm sure we're going to get into. So light accelerates the process. But as far as the brain health goes, we can't deliver a free headset to everybody in the world. Correct. We're in 40 countries right now. But what we can do is we can download that and start the brain on its evolution. The brain needs to evolve. And if we stay in stuck patterns and stuck behaviors, then the brain basically thinks this is the way we're always going to be. It becomes more like the federal government and says, it doesn't matter what you want to do. These are the boxes you need to check. These are the forms you need to fill out. And if you miss any of those boxes or any of those forms, you got to start from scratch. But the brain loves to adapt. So the more sensory-based data it can get that's healthy, that leads it to what we call a frequency response. We call it a symphony of brainwaves. Then you're going to have the change. We find that about 30% more effective when you use the lights, but still it's super effective. We did a study where we just use the audio at Duke University. The students get to use it, and they're getting phenomenal results. They don't even know about the headset because it's in their learning center in their spa there that they have on campus. But most people don't even know about it because they're busy being busy. If it accelerates to a certain point, then of course the professionals on campus will direct them to the BrainTap.
Well, I went away last weekend with a couple of girls from Keep Me Safe Organics. And I spent the night with them in the same room. And I said, hey, I brought my BrainTap with me. And, but I showed them about the app. So this is what you will be getting for free. And so this is what you got to do. You've got to like this show and my Facebook page, of course. You get to share the show, you get to share it, and then you get to tag a friend. And if you do all that, you will get I will send you a free link for this. So this is what it looks like. It's an app. It's an app like no different than you pay monthly for BrainTap, not for Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But this is a app for your brain. And so you get to rewrite the program, whether you have the headset, which I have the headset and I absolutely love it. The headset is $550. Maybe the next time you come on, we'll give a headset away. But this is what's important. It's to become custom. Get your brain used to this. And so we went away with Kelly and Rebecca, and we were together. And I'm telling you, she, after the first time that she did the BrainTap with the headset, she goes, I'm getting it. She finished and she goes, I'm getting it. She went on and bought it for herself. But then it takes about a week to get the headset. So I said, get started, just get started. And so she got the 15-day free trial. And after she heard the first one, she said, no, I'm going to go with a 99-cent 45-day trial. So she knew she was ahead of the game. And so these are the bundles that you get. And within these, let me show you. Within these, there's different meditations that you get. So it's absolutely phenomenal. I've been doing this 2 to 3 times a day since probably October or November when I got my headset. And it's been life-changing for me. There is, I don't want to say you can brain tap, but these are meditations. Explain about the meditation and how much deeper we go into this, like spin beta, theta, alpha.
There's frequencies we get from our light, from our sun, obviously, but there's also frequencies from the planet. These are called isochronic tones. It generates these frequencies. If we were to sit by the ocean, for instance, we would get 10 hertz frequency from the sound of the ocean, the vibration of the ocean. Wow. So light, sound, and vibration is really important. That's 10 hertz frequency. The incredible part is we get a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine when that happens. If you can think about it, that's the same neurotransmitter you get when you fall in love. So if you ever heard somebody say, oh, I love the ocean, that's because their brain matches that emotional state to things that they know. So basically we become in love with that frequency. If we go to a mountaintop, then it's going to be around 7.8 hertz frequency. It's called the Schumann frequency. And that happens to be theta. One of the biggest researchers right now, if you find out what are they researching right now in the drug world, it's GABAnoids. That's because GABA is so important. But guess what? Turn the BrainTap on, you can produce your own GABA. Because as soon as you start to trigger theta activity, the brain produces, basically the brain doesn't produce it. The brain sends a signal to the gut. The gut makes 95% of the neurotransmitters that the body needs. So we have a thinking gut, and that all coordinates with our thinking heart. Our heart has 40,000 neurocells that needs to communicate between these. So as these 3 different brains communicate, what happens is there's coherency, they call it. So as we get more coherent, we become more powerful. The innate intelligence of our body takes over, and we switch on that healing brain at the appropriate time. Now, there's times to be in, fight or flight, or to be, stressed out. I mean, when we work out, for instance, in exercise, we're going to be stressing out our body. That's a good form of stress. Yeah. But when we worry about friends, family, whatever, or we worry about a text message or whatever's going on, that can dampen all those. It basically shuts down the production of these healing frequencies and turns on the negative side of that. Mm-hmm. So we need to be turning on the healing side more than the stress response side. And then our body will return back to balance.
So let's talk about, so beta, what is beta in our brain? What does it do?
Well, beta is controlled by the frontal lobe. And what it does, it's basically like the receptionist. It's going to help us react to information as it comes in. We need that when we're driving, paying bills, all those kind of things. Beta isn't a bad thing, but if we get stuck in beta, we don't release those other healing frequencies that we need. So beta is, we call it the reactionary mind. So we react to things in that mind. So many people think they can change their life by using beta. I'm going to tell you right now, the research that's out there, they say everybody knows 21 days to make a change, right? You've probably heard that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally false. There's never been a research study shows 21 days makes a change. In fact, Stanford and Harvard both showed it took 21 days if you use a visualization relaxation program with it. Not on your own. You can do anything you want for 21 days. It's not going to change it. They actually found it takes 18 months. So that's part of the biohacking. We can use our brain to simulate time. So as you do these things, so beta, we want beta, but we want to put it into abeyance. We want to say, okay, beta brain, relax. I got control of this. When you get into alpha and theta, those are the primary brain waves we're going to train during your brain tapping adventure. And now alpha has to do with healing, pain-free states. Theta also has both these states have a component called hypermnesia, super memory. So you can, when you make changes in those states, your brain becomes impressionable. The best way I can explain it to you, in marketing and advertising, they have a term called top of the mind awareness. Okay, so let's say that you listen to a session about health and healing and you're focused on your life. What's going to happen is your reticular activator, that part of your brain that's actually like the central computer, is looking for those opportunities to show love, peace, tranquility, abundance, all of those things, because those opportunities are out there anyway. But if you're focused on all the fear, the frustration, the anxiety, then you focus on those things, and it seems like a magnet. These thoughts are also magnetic in nature, so you magnetize those experiences. So let's change the frequency, and we change our life. In fact, Nikola Tesla said that if you want to really talk about healing in nature, you got to talk about frequency, and that's what we're talking about here.
So interesting, you had said earlier, and we've talked about in the classroom before, that the brain doesn't know fact from fiction, do or don't. It just hears the command that it hears, and it wants to honor you. But here's an interpretation of what the command is. So if I don't want to focus, if I don't want something to cause me harm, and I'm focusing on the harm it's going to cause me, eventually it's going to bring harm into my life, right? And so you're saying that that's the reactionary, that's the beta over beta thinking.
Yes.
And so to bring the mind into alpha and theta, that's what basically you're doing. Is this something that you've seen in studies time and time again, that most people just need to balance out their theta and their alpha with their beta?
Yeah, one of our most recent studies was done in a school in India where it was done where we showed just one session of theta influenced the learning speed of the students. Now that school in Delhi is using BrainTap in every classroom.
Wow.
Because it shifted. So the problem is, think of alpha and theta as your intuitive and your inventive mind, that realm of possibility. If you don't know there's a possibility, and most people have had this experience, you're out to dinner with a friend or a family member and you tell them your problems, they give you a really simple solution. You go, oh, wow, why didn't I think of that? That's so simple. But because you're so myopic on the problem, the solution has no room to go. And we tell people it's like catching monkeys in the wild. Most people don't know how that's done, but how it's done is they take a jar just big enough to put the monkey's hand through. And the monkey, when it tries, it's holding on the potato, but it can't get out. And then basically they bump it on the head and ends up in Chicago Zoo and doesn't know how it happened. If they just let go of the potato. So that's what most people just need to do. And that's where the letting go, the forgiveness, those kind of things, don't focus on the negative. You got to learn from the negative, of course, but you don't focus on it. So many people are so fixated on getting even, that they were unjustly done or whatever. The reality is that life just simply is. So get over it and start living the life you want now. Choose to be happy. And it's as simple as that sounds. When you start role playing and visualizing it and believing it and living it, pretty soon it just becomes a habit. You just become a happy-go-lucky person, and then happy-go-lucky things happen to you. Yeah. I've been told before, they go, Patrick, you're just lucky. No, I'm lucky because I set myself up to be lucky, not because I'm Irish, like some people say.
And you wear a green shirt.
Yes.
No, and so that is, so we talked about beta, alpha, theta. So you said alpha is the intuitiveness in us. So people
Yeah.
that are very intuitive, they have high alpha in their brain.
They're able to tune into alpha. They might have a high amount of alpha. If somebody, for instance, if a child has too much alpha and not enough beta, they'll become hyperactive, because alpha brings you a lot of energy. Beta causes you energy. So like if you've ever done your taxes, most people out there, unless you're an accountant that loves doing numbers, you're probably spent after doing your taxes, right? Because you're thinking, how can you brainstorming? How can I legally do this or that? But when you're done, you're like, you're shot, because the brain uses 80% sometimes of the energy of the body, of the system, all the time, 25%.
Wow.
So as you're using all of that energy, now when you're an alpha and theta, no energy use, because we're bringing energy in. Think of when you're doing things you love, whether it's golf, gardening, playing with your grandkids or your children. All those times you're doing things you love, you're probably an alpha. You could do that all day because there's no energy expenditure. You're equally bringing in energy and not bringing energy, using energy. So the whole key is to use them all. And it's really key to, when we talk about delta, how this is all set up, because all of these brainwaves are very, very important. One is not any more important than the other, and there's a certain balance of those frequencies. So really, if I was to measure your brain, Lily, we would want to find 40 to 45% beta, about 25% alpha on an average person, and then about 10 to 15% theta. And then you would have, while you're awake, there should only be less than 10% delta. And then there'd be some gamma there. And we can talk about gamma too, if you'd like, because we have a gamma response to what we're doing. But all these 5 brainwaves, there's also a brainwave that the listeners might want to be aware of. It's called SMR, sensory motor rhythm. That's the one between awake and asleep, between alpha and beta. That's the one, as we get better looking and more intelligent with age, certain things happen to our brain, right? Our memories start to fade, because that's the brainwave that actually takes short-term memories, makes them long-term, and goes get our long-term memories and makes them short-term. So it's kind of our carrier, if you will. It's kind of like the mail carrier. We want a memory, it goes and gets it. It reproduces it in our brain. And we have trainings for that. So our morning sessions, like when you're saying you're doing 3 times a day, any of our morning sessions, we call it digital coffee, because we want to wake up the brain. Now, you can do it synthetically with coffee and with other stimulants, but it's best you can still have those, but it's best to stimulate the brain in alpha. And this is what happens, unfortunately, with some meditations. People don't get the results they want because they're trying to go through meditation and they've not been taught proper breathing, they've not been taught proper thought process. And then the brain is just going wild like a wild stallion.
Yeah, it's going everywhere.
Right? So we train the brain, because the brain mimics, it loves patterns. That's why the BrainTap works so well with the autistic community, is they put it on and their brain starts, ooh, what is this light? What is this sound? What is this vibration? And then pretty soon the science is actually called frequency following response. And we do this naturally. We do this with people even. You could probably be around people and you go, wow, I felt so comfortable with them. I could just communicate with them. They felt good. Now we call this rapport in therapy. But the reality is that they're on the same frequency. Like people say, I didn't get their vibe. I got a bad vibe from that person. Our bodies are always responding to these things. This language isn't just metaphoric. It's based in a reality that we can now measure with things like our heart rate variability, the WABI, neuroinfinity, any kind of new mind device that picks up and can do a brain map.
And for those of you who are just tuning in, because I see people coming in and out, we're giving away a free 15-day trial. It's just like, Netflix. People don't think twice about getting Netflix, Hulu. Now there's Disney movies that you can spend all this money that really doesn't do anything for your brain. But this is like the Netflix for your brain. And you have hundreds of meditations that will take you to that. I mean, when I'm doing this, when I'm doing the BrainTap, and of course this is the BrainTap, but you can do it without the headset. Like Patrick said, there are people that don't even know that the headset exists, but it accelerates with the lights in the ears, with the meridians in the ears, and then of course with the eyes, because of the lights in the eyes. And I just recently, Dr. Porter, discovered that you can intensify the light.
Yes.
And what does that mean, the more intense that the light is for the eyes?
Well, the more light, the more neuroactivity that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Light does some really incredible things. The eyes aren't just attached to the brain. Your eyes are actually brain matter. So light, when it comes in, creates what's called vasodilation and blood flow, which means we're going to bring supply lines into the brain of nutrients, whatever nutrients there are. And when we've had any brain damage, or as we get older, as I was talking about earlier, those supply lines get damaged because of plaquing. And so we want to bring in new supply lines. This microcirculation is key. And the best way to get light into the brain, or one of the best ways I should say, is through the eyes and the ears. There's also other ways, but these are the simplest and easiest. You don't have to think about it. When that happens, the light gets absorbed by the hemoglobin that's flowing through that tissue in that area. It then circulates through the brain. It finds the cells that are dying. This is called apoptosis. And as soon as it does it, basically simplified, it takes the photon, which is the energy, and exchanges it for the cell that's about to die. Now it starts the Krebs cycle, or starts the mitochondria, the energy. Think of it like the Lamborghini's energy. We're going to give it some gasoline. Now you don't just have a Lamborghini in your garage you can't drive. Now you have one that has fuel, that has the energy that it needs. And think of ATP as the currency that heals the body. Without ATP, you can be doing the greatest therapy, you can be doing the greatest supplements, but if you don't have that energy transaction, that way to transact that information, you can't heal, because there's no basically resources there. But once you do that, the body, this innate intelligence, the blueprint for health is there. It just needs to be activated. And one of the ways we are programmed as humans is by light. I mean, anybody who's ever flown across the country and experienced jet lag, what they've really experienced is called light lag. Because when we wake up in the morning, there's actually, in fact, even in the ancient text of India, they talk about that healing time in the morning between 3:30 and sunrise, because at that moment, we're getting infrared light, we're getting 610 light, we're getting 470 light. We don't use infrared in our eyeglasses, but we do have devices that do that. But what that does is it resets, they now know that resets the gut biome. So we are so tuned to light. And the jet lag happens because we might go across seven time zones. We did an experiment with pilots with United quite a few years back, and it was with an older machine. But what we found out was if they did the light and sound session on the plane, they did it as soon as they landed. What usually would take 4 days of neurological rest and relaxation for them to be able to fly, they could pass the neurological test in 4 hours.
Wow.
Because what's happening is the blue light at 47 nanometers, which is a healing light. A lot of people have some negatives about blue light. They just don't know what blue light is. The blue light in your cell phone is not the same as the blue light in the BrainTap. Ours is tuned to healing frequencies. So what happens is now we can reset the serotonin, the acetylcholine, the GABA, the dopamine. We can reset the amount of melatonin your body releases, because now the brain and the body are synced to that moment in time. So we need to retrain the brain. I've never experienced jet lag. In fact, even when I fly to India and all over the world, China,
Really?
wherever, people go, "Do you want to rest today?" I go, "No, I'm fine." Because the first thing I did when I got to my hotel room was did a BrainTap session, because I wanted to wake up my brain. And if we were able to see our brain in our brain maps, and I know what happens to the brain when you fly, it's not pretty. So I need to, and just like those out there that have kids that play video games, I would never have them do a video game unless right afterwards I did a BrainTap session, because those video games, unless I'm talking now about single shooter games. There's a lot of good video games, but I'm talking about the single shooters where they remember, doesn't know the difference between fact or fiction. Here they are running around killing people. Well, the brain's going crazy, and it goes into basically inflammation overload, and that shows up with people. So we need to get them out of that inflammation overload and get their brain and body working the way we were genetically intended.
Wow. Wow. And I've always said that I'm really concerned whenever I hear about a massive shooting of these kids that are doing these videos and you get rewarded for shooting, and all of a sudden, here we are in real life and they're actually doing the shooting with real people. It really concerns me. So, it sounds like to me that you've done a lot of testing. Where can we find, let's say, because I'm always about empowering people to do the research themselves. You've done the testing, might as well read the research. Is there a place that we can research this, that we could see the research that you guys have done?
Oh yes. Actually, I was invited to go to the NIH this May to present one of our papers. It showed one session on the BrainTap, we were able to improve neurological function by 30%. And I'm going to be presenting that to the NIH. On our site right now, that part of the site, unfortunately, is not active. But if they give you the links as you want the research, we have all the research packets. That will be up there eventually when they log in and they get their free 15 days, which, by the way, you don't need a credit card. You can go on there. We don't ask you for any credit card. We want you to try it risk-free. And when you do that, you actually get a copy of one of my books. So if you're not getting enough of this information for free, you get to download that and use it. You can check it out. And the research is in the book that they can download for free.
That's right. That's right. So the way you get the free 15-day trial, or I think you could also get a 45-day trial for 99 cents. This is an app that you would be getting, and you have access for the 99-cent one. You get access to how many downloads? To how many meditations?
There's thousands. We have over 1,000 sessions. Some have music only for those people that don't want to hear somebody talking to them. Yeah. And then we have over 800 that are guided imagery. Probably 90% of them are me, but we have other professionals.
I'm going to share this one. I listen to this every night.
So that you can do this on your own.
Yes. I told a friend of mine, his name is Jim. I told him that the next time I meet Dr. Porter, he can make me cluck like a chicken because I listen to you all the time. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like on, of course. I'm listening to you right now. I don't know if you see the lights shining. You close your eyes and you go into a deep, deep meditation, more so than if you have ever, I've tried meditation before, Dr. Porter, and I really have not been able to do it. I just haven't. I get started on it. I'm excited about it, but just sitting there doing nothing doesn't work for me. But this, I feel like I'm getting more out of my meditation because I'm being guided. I'm being coached. I know that I'm getting, let's talk about the binaural beats. What do these binaural beats do?
Right. One of the things, just to kind of cap off what you're just saying, when I was at AIMS, the All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, they are now using BrainTap and they're using our technology. And we took one of their greatest meditators and he still got better results using BrainTap. I mean, these are people in India that meditate all the time. Now, it's not a guru or something like that, but we took their normal staff that's still meditating. They couldn't get there on their own because it's hard. It's difficult. That's why the gurus go into the mountains and hide in caves. So you can do that on your own. So what do binaural beats do?
Yes.
The brain is always matching the frequencies outside. But if we want to get, let's say we want to get the alpha frequency, we might put 200 hertz frequency in one ear, 210 in the other. The brain hears a phantom frequency. It hears the 10 hertz frequency. It doesn't hear the 10 or the 210, the 200 or the 210. It hears 10. Now, the spooky thing is this is happening all the time. But because people don't always hear perfectly, what we did is we also layered on that the isochronic tone. Now, this is a mono frequency. So while they're getting this, they're getting the other, and we're putting in the music. The music is key because now with music and vibration, we can activate different regions of the brain. So you might feel, oh, this is really helping the frontal lobe. This is helping my, the temporal lobes. This is helping my occiput. All these different areas, because through light, sound, and vibration, think about our world comes in through our senses. So the only thing missing, of course, is vibration in the bed. And if you came to my clinic or you came to one of our results, some of our doctors have a vibrating bed based on the work of Dr. Emoto, because frequency changes our water structure. While we're sitting here, we're 70 to 80% water. And what we say, they now know, they've proven, Dr. Emoto did a lot of work on this in The Secret Life of Water, how it affects our body. So we need the whole system to kind of galvanize and organize around this positive information. So we put as much as we could into the headset, and basically the brain adds in the rest.
But you don't need to have the headset. So that's why we're giving away the 15-day trial so that you can try it. And if you like it, then you can continue using it. But it's an app. You can get it on your Android. You can get it on your iPhone. It's a smartphone. The app, there's a monthly fee, just like you pay for Netflix and you pay for all these different channels, pay-for channels. And we spend a lot of money doing things that really don't benefit our brain. And we want to make sure that our brain is healthy till we take our final breath. I mean, my mom, I love my mother, but every 3 minutes, it's a new beginning. And I have found the beauty in dementia. I have found the beauty because when I give her a gift, she opens my gift 10 times in 1 hour, and 10 times I get kisses. So I embrace the beauty of everything in my life. But to be able, I have to share with you that I had her BrainTap enhanced brain, and she would get scared. She would forget that she was doing this. And so my dad held her hand. They've been married for 65 years. He held her hand. She was golden. So there, I believe that this meets you where you're at. So today, if you want a free trial, it's a 15-day free trial, or I believe you can get the app for 99 cents for 45 days. And all you need to do is like my channel, share this video, and tag a friend. And you do that, I'll send you the link where you can get this free app. Okay, so, and you don't need to, because Kelly was telling me when she started doing the BrainTap, she did it without the headset, and she was like addicted, just like I am. So how many, you say that in the video, in the audio, that 1 time is good, 2 times is best, and 3 times is better. Can you get more benefit if you're like tapping your brain all day long?
Yeah, you just wouldn't get anything else done. I don't recommend that. But the reason we have the 3 is in the morning, we need to wake up our brain. Most people's brains do not wake up. They need stimulants. If you need coffee in the morning, you need BrainTap, because you don't want to use the chemical system to increase your awareness. You want to use the electrical system.
Yeah.
We
are electrical beings. Yeah.
Yes. And so then in the middle of the day, what they now know, studies have come out, if you could take a nap, which usually takes 4 hours, if you could take that 4-hour nap, you would reclaim up to 80% of the energy you had in the morning. We know that with a 10 or 15 or 20-minute session of BrainTap, you can reclaim that as well, because we basically biohack the nap. It's a power nap. Now, in the evening, most people will listen to whatever they want, but if you have a sleeping problem, this is key. So you should really listen if you have a sleeping problem. Number 1, you need to get to deep delta. Most people don't.
Deep delta.
Yes. And some people are in bed for 12 hours, but they don't even get 10 minutes of delta sleep. You need a minimum of 1 hour. So that 1 hour of deep sleep does a lot of magical things to the body. That's when your brain actually cleans itself. You only detox the brain during delta sleep. That's the only time, and they call it sleep paralysis. So when you go through that cycle, you detox the brain. And I would say that 90% of our users will respond and say, I'm getting the deepest sleep, the best sleep I've ever had, because the brain is retraining itself. When somebody says sleep like a baby, they don't mean cry all night and have a dirty diaper. We want to have them really peaceful, deep sleep and get the recharge that they need. And once you do that, you'll find that we should have about an hour of deep sleep, about 2 to 3 hours of REM sleep. And the rest of it, we can do whatever. I mean, that's why the military showed we only need 4 hours of sleep, but we need more. I mean, 100 years ago, everybody got 12 hours of sleep. Now the average person sleeps 6 hours.
Yeah. And it's good to know that the deep delta sleep, all we need to have is an hour. And everything else is, so before I go to bed, I definitely tap. I've been very religious about this. And there was one time that it was we had just come in for, it was maybe Christmas Eve or whatever, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I am putting on my tap machine. I am going to tap myself to sleep tonight, because I knew that I was missing out on the 10 and 2, those 10 and 2 bewitching magical hours. And before we continue, I want to encourage you that if you want to try this yourself, you don't need to have the headset. But although it is optimal to have it, you don't need the headset. And it doesn't matter where you're watching from today. I mean, they do meditations on forgiveness and self-love. Gosh, they even have PTSD, and there's so many different, like losing weight, releasing weight, which is, a lot of there's just one section. And so there's themes, and you can get a bundle, which is a theme, or you can get it all, which is the whole enchilada. And so, but here, if you like, share, and tag somebody, I will send you a link that will give you a 15-day free trial, or you can do 99 cents for 45 days, which is phenomenal. So, but I want to share that this is part of taking ownership for our life. This is part of being part of the change. I know that many of us want for life to be different by snapping our fingers, but they say time heals all, but time heals nothing. It's what you do with that time that matters. So what we do here in the classroom is that we take ownership for our life, responsibility. And so I want to thank all my sponsors who have also taken a stand with me. You can go to whenyouneedafriend.com, click onto my homepage. There's all my social media. So like me, follow me, which is part of getting the 15-day trial. And also, while you're there, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and make sure that you click on my sponsors page. When you click onto my sponsors page, these are sponsors that are making sure that this information gets out. We don't find this information in mainstream media because they want us to take a pill. And as you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. So I hope that all of you look at the word responsibility as something that's empowering and freeing for yourself. And so some of these sponsors like Liberty Health Share, Keep Me Safe Organics Worldwide, in all of these you get like free gifts. And so go play in the sponsors portal and also in my shopping bag. First Alternative Care, Dr. Stephen Grable, the pharmacy in Merritt Island, Live Longer Medical, ground therapy. Like right now I'm talking to you, and I know that Dr. Porter loves ground therapy too. I'm talking to you and I'm grounding while I'm talking to you right now. So those are different ways that you can change your life. You can also become an enrolled student in the classroom and donate your time, talent, or treasure. And so check out my sponsors, figure out ways that you can help them, support them as they are supporting the classroom. Now, Dr. Porter, we are like almost towards the end of the podcast. We can, after the podcast is over, we normally have a Q&A. If anybody has any questions, we can do that after the class. But is there anything that you would like to share that we just need to nail, that people need to understand about BrainTap?
Well, I think first of all, just to kind of put the exclamation point on what you just said, when you change yourself, you might not know, but in epigenetics, they now show that you change 7 generations forward
Beautiful.
and backwards.
That's
so when
biblical.
You change yourself, so when you change yourself, you're sending frequency response to your family, your friends. So I like to tell people, my father already has changed millions of lives. Every day we have between 62 and 70,000 people listen to a BrainTap session. And hopefully they're liking and sharing and doing all the things you're doing because it's changing their life. I mean, when you reduce your stress, you're a better person. Everyone knows you make better decisions when you are stress-free. That's why if you're going through a divorce, changing jobs, buying a new home, all those things, you should never make a major decision when you're under stress. Nowadays, everyone's under those major stresses. So let's inoculate ourselves against stress. Let's start brain tapping and then change the world.
I love it. I love it. So some of the themes, so that you know, is sleep, because sleep is a big one. Many of us, get enough sleep. And when we do get some sleep, it's not the high quality sleep, as Dr. Porter was saying. There's optimal health, worry-free, weight loss. And even for children, we didn't even talk about children other than you talked about autism. And I want to go back to that waking up for people that need to do Coca-Cola or caffeine or that's another, there is something on addictions here too. So, so there's so many, and of course there's much more than we can even talk about in these bundles, but let's talk about children. Let's talk about children after we say goodbye. I want to again remind you, because we've got a couple of minutes left before the podcast is done. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, feel free to join us at whenyouneedafriend.com or on Facebook.live at Lillian's radio show. Also, if you want a free trial, you do not have to have, which I love this, Dr. Porter, I love this, that you don't need to have the headset. You still get benefits, but you can get the free trial. Make sure you you share, and you tag somebody, and I will send you the link for this beautiful healing modality. We have our phones by our sides all the time, but yet nothing ever heals us the way this does. So thank you, Dr. Porter. for changing our lives. Well, for listening to your father many years ago,
Yeah.
and how it changed your life, and how that life is changing all of us. So thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you for helping me to share it with people.
Oh, absolutely. Once again, go to whenyounneedafriend.com. You can also you can listen, share this, like us, follow, do all those things to help us grow the classroom so that more people will know that you can tap into the goodness of your brain so that you can increase its potential. Please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you, and we'll be talking after the class. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Patrick Porter wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. There you go. There you go. I'm going to tap now.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
I love, 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 love. So, oops.
Sleeping deeply, resting comfortably.
We get to listen to you now.
Natural to your heartbeat. As unconscious
Music.
and as automatic as your breathing. 6. It's not for you. It's for your body. And because your body needs a state of deep, deep delta sleep.
Deep, not deep delta sleep. Deep delta sleep.
Sleep. Every day in every way, you're getting better. Better, better, and better than the day before.
And I love
5.
that. I love that. I love all the different tappings. And I know that there are, I don't know, Dr. Porter, how someone can get the power user. I don't know how that works, but I wanted to read some of the, how do people get the power user? Are these people that are
They should get access when they do your link you're going to share with them.
So they get
if
the
not,
power user.
let me know, and we'll make sure that they get the power user access. We can do that.
I just want to share that there are, I don't know if you could see this, but look at, there's abuse, there's addiction. Let me just read that. And when you click on these, let's say you click on this one, look at all the different meditations on that particular topic. So do you use this one through, like this one has 13 meditations for that particular topic, which is abuse survivors. And so for people who are in an abusive situation and they start tapping, do they do 1 through 13, or can they jump around, and what's calling them for that day?
The first time we recommend, the first series they do, we recommend they go from 1 to whatever the series is. Usually it's anywhere between 7 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in that series, as you're working on that issue, stay with that one, because it's all about neuroplasticity. One of the studies I didn't get to share on the call was we had women 55 to 65. This is a fellow Floridian. Maybe you should have Dr. Miller on the call. His book's called Saving Your Brain. And he did a study where he took 55 to 65 years old, and he does a lot more at his clinic, but he did a study with us where he only had them do BrainTap at minimum of 3 times a week. After 6 weeks, they were dementia. That was their diagnosis. But in 6 weeks, they were no longer diagnosed as dementia. They had 64% neuroplasticity because we made sure every time they listened, they rotate through that. So if there's 13, if you listen every day, that's 13 days worth. At the 14th day, you can go back to number 1 again. But every session is different because the brain, it loves change, but it loves patterns. So even though you might love one, it's good to go through them all so that you can get the experience. You can always go, if you've got one you love, maybe every 3 days, go back to that one. But in between there, do something different, because we want to make sure the brain, after it knows the algorithm, which it would never learn all these algorithms or commit them to memory. But once it does, it becomes like wallpaper. It doesn't have the same effect. That's what happens to people when they meditate or they listen to the same music to meditate. The brain basically, it would be almost like flatlining. The brain says, okay, there's no more information I need from the outer world. That's not something we need to. The reticular activator is very, very important in that it always is scanning our environment through our senses. Is this safe? Is this something I need to take action on? Do I need to flee? Do I need to fight? What do I need to do? And these sounds wake up the brain. It wakes up that part of the brain that says, hey, what's going on? And once the brain is lit up and starts to operate that way, it's like a muscle. It keeps using it. So a little bit different. That's why, like, whether they go through the stress protocols, they go through addiction protocols or sleeping protocols, there's a lot of different sessions. In the weight loss, for instance, we have over 200 sessions for weight loss, but we have 55 sessions just for emotional eating, because we can specifically target in, let's say somebody has, we have one that's called Turn Diet Saboteurs into Diet Supporters. This is teaching people how to say no to people, because we all have that person that's kind of codependent, or when you make the change in your house, they want to sabotage you because they still want to have the Oreo cookies maybe or whatever. And you want to be able to tell them, no, this is for me. You know, I need this time. And they need to be, once somebody becomes assertive and says, look, this isn't a fad anymore. When the average diet lasts 72 hours, starts on Monday, ends on Wednesday, we got a problem here. It's a thinking problem. And so that's where we're at with the BrainTap.
Yes, yes. And so if we look at the optimal health, so now that you explained this, it makes sense to me, because now could you let's say, like for me, I love, I own a marketing company, and I want to work on my skills, my skill set, but I also want to sleep, and I also maybe want to have better relationships or whatever. Can I do 3 sessions of this?
Well, yeah, you can mix it up. We have a really good one in the Life Mastery series called Enter the Creativity Zone. I've written 9 books, but really that's because my wife has edited 9 books. I'm the speaker in the family. She's the writer in the family. I mean, It's my ideas, but you really need a good editor, somebody who can do that. And so she had a block in the book that they can get for free, the Thrive and Overdrive. And so I created the series, the program called Enter the Creativity Zone. So you can unlock that creative potential that you have. And we know it's the right frequencies that the brain would naturally go to if you were in that creative state. But everybody at one time or another usually gets a creative block. Even Stephen King only writes till 12 at noon, and then he goes watches the Red Sox. So I don't know too many people that are more creative than him, although most of his books are not, I don't think, good for the brain, but at least he's getting the thoughts out. So we need something new and different, something that excites the brain. And one thing that's really cool, like you're saying, take responsibility. When you start taking control of your life, I tell people before they find BrainTap, it's like they're in the back of the bus and Freddy Krueger's driving. We need to undo the handcuffs from the back of the bus, kick Freddy Krueger off, and take your life and your family or your friends or whatever in the direction you want to go. Because people are going to go, hey, what's with you? What's new and different about you? Well, you're not carrying around all that stress. You can be relaxed. You can be yourself. You can have fun, and you can learn to compartmentalize. When it's time to be, every one of us has to hopefully working out. Keeping our body fit. That's going to stress out our body. Besides the emotional reasons, we always say there's 3 reasons people have issues with their nervous system, and that's really what we're talking about here. It's thoughts, traumas, or toxins. So we need to deal with all 3 of those. If we're not, something's going to be left off the table, and there's going to be an incompleteness there.
Yes. And so before we went off the podcast, I said I wanted to talk about children and how this is helping children too. But before I do that, for those of you who are watching or tuning in, tuning out, just know that we're giving away a 15-day trial or a 99 cents for 45 days trial if you want, whichever one. But you've got to like, share, and tag somebody. And then once you do that, I will send you your link so you can start tapping. You do not need to have this beautiful headset, which I feel like I'm in a space person, like I'm in my space suit and in my, and it puts me in a little bubble too. It just puts me in the frame of mind because I'm going to get the whole work, so to speak, the lights, the infrared, just everything. But you can just listen to it with a headset, right? Right, Dr. Porter? Okay. Yeah. So
one thing too I was just going to say that I was the one who created the very first portable light and sound machine. There were big ones out there for $10,000. So even though a lot of people think this is new, this brainwave entrainment is new, we've been evolving and tracking people and doing research. 2 of our papers were accepted to the NIH to be presented at their conference in Cleveland this year, which is phenomenal. They would have never looked at us if we didn't have the research. And that's because you can change your physiology in as little as 10 minutes.
Wow.
But it's hard to do that without the training. So what we've done is we take the training part out of it. If you can close your eyes, sit in a comfortable place, you can go there. And we know that after 3 sessions, everyone goes there, but a good number, about 60% the very first session, they're going to get a physiological response. And then the second session, we know about 85%. But by the 3rd session, as long as there's nothing organically wrong with the brain, we know that they're going to follow the algorithm. They're going to get the benefits of deep, deep meditation without the 30 years of practice or going to the Himalayas and living in a cave. So you can do that right in the comfort of your own home or office.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So if you have any questions for Dr. Porter, you can type in a Q, type a Q, and then write your question after that. So let's talk about children and how this is helping children, Dr. Porter.
Okay. Well, the biggest one that we did was there's a doctor in Orange County. Her name is Joquita Handy. She works with autism. She's a speech pathologist. And we started getting all this information back about 7 years ago that she was helping all these kids. And we didn't even know that. We didn't have any programs for it. She was having these children listen to the actual adult programs. But what happens with children, even adults with autism, they're missing alpha. So we showed that we could retrain alpha. Alpha is also responsible for speech. So for speech pathologists, this is what happens. So now we're in different school systems. We're in a school in New York, it's connected to New York. We're in several colleges. We have a whole school in India using it. There's one called the Creative School. It's just going to keep spreading because what happens, they call it brain prep. So if your child doesn't have to have autism, but maybe they're hyperactive, maybe they don't have concentration or focus, our sessions are designed to train the brain of a child. Now, they're not 20 minutes because children usually have a lot of theta, so they don't need the deep relaxation like adults do. As adults, we need to get that relaxation, but the children's sessions are about 10 minutes. We have a series, it's called the Children's Opportunity for Brilliance, and that's the one for autism. And we have one called, I think it's Unlocking Your Children's Full Potential.
Yes.
Yeah, so all of these sessions, we have over 50 sessions really when the whole set comes, when you look at all the ones for children. And we're building more all the time because there's different reasons that people do this, but children love this.
Yeah, so this is the one for children right here. I'm gonna click on it right there. So this is the one for children. I just want to show you. I want to make sure. So look at all the different sessions that you can do with your children. So this is like for the whole family. This is the gift that keeps on giving. Seriously. I listened to part of one because I wanted to see if my children would allow me to work with my grandchildren when they come visit. I need their approval. But I just wanted to listen to see how it was, and I loved it. I thought I could listen to this too. So because that's the childlike in me that probably can relate to that. But of course, there's a lot of stress in our lives. So I would also need that other portion of it. So with the children with autism, ADHD, what other conditions can we look at? Because you're doing the eyes, what about people who are dyslexic? I have a friend who's dyslexic. And
we don't have sessions specifically for dyslexia, but what we find is that's a brain speed issue. When I was talking about the neuroplasticity, what we found with these women that went through the study on dementia, that their left hemisphere was slowing down before their right hemisphere. So we designed BrainTap sessions that speed up the left hemisphere, slow down the right, and got them to work together. The same thing is true with these children, with stuttering, with all this dyslexia. The information is just not crossing over the corpus callosum at the right speed. It's a neural network, just like we have Wi-Fi networks. And we could have a great internet connection, but if we don't have connection to the internet, a lot of people say, oh, the internet's down. No, the internet's not down. You don't have connection to it. You have an infinite potential, but you don't have connection to it. So the connection is we need to get the brain balanced. So now we can start receiving the right information. And once we receive the right information, then we can expand that neural network. And that neuroplasticity has to do with how intelligent somebody is. The more neuron connections a person has, they now know that they have the capacity to problem solve, to remember, to function in life. And unfortunately, the less you do, the more your brain shuts down. Your brain is designed to conserve energy because it's using a lot of energy. So it wants to conserve that energy. So it's going to shut down. They actually call it neural sprouting because we can grow new neurons all the time. We can't bring the old ones back if we kill them, but we can build new ones. Your brain can rebuild at any age. There's actually a book called The Brain That Healed Itself, because in the right conditions, your brain can heal itself. So we're just giving it the right conditions, and then the brain does the work. It's there. The blueprint's there. But if you stay stressed or you're eating inappropriately, one of the negatives for children, unfortunately, we found that it's harder to get the brain to change while they're on medicines because our body's not designed to take medicine. But I know some people need it, and I would never invite somebody to do it without their medical doctor's help. But the reality is that your brain knows what to do, and you possess the most powerful pharmacy on earth. Your brain, even medicine is called reactionary medicine. They put it in, the brain in the body reacts to it, it creates the change. The pill does not do the change. It's the body's reaction to it. That's why they still call it practicing medicine. So, if this one doesn't work, let's try this one. Well, and I love your saying, you can either take a pill or take responsibility. What I always tell people is, do you have the abilities to do this? All we need to do is create the response to those abilities, and then you can take responsibility. So as people do those things, we all have the ability. The problem is that stress usually overrides that, or like I said, it could be thoughts, traumas, or toxins. We need to get rid of the interference so that we can be the brilliant self that we are.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I understand that if you listen to the audio without the headset, there's no problem with people. Anybody can do it. But with the headset with the flashing lights, it might have a problem with people who have seizures or epilepsy, right?
Yes, if you have epileptic seizures, which is photic epileptic, which is a subset, about 6% of epilepsy, if you can't walk into a nightclub because of flashing lights, you can't play a video game, you probably don't want to use the lights. You can just use the earbuds. And
you can turn the lights off. You can still cover your eyes. And there's a way that if you press this button right here 5 times, it'll shut the lights off. Yes.
So a lot of our doctors, which we're in over 2,000 doctors' offices, they just put the visor up when that's happening, and people can still listen. But some people don't want to do that because it blocks out the light and they can relax a little bit more. The initial setting is usually low enough that most people doesn't influence them at all. Yeah. It's still making a change because cranial nerve number 2 is still picking up the flash. So that's why you flip it up, or you put a Kleenex between them. Some people do that so that they don't have that.
So there's ways around it as well. And so I'm just saying that this has been, when I discovered ground therapy, it was a life changer for me because, how many of us can ground, on the beach or in the mountains or in the grass, that's not treated with pesticides 45 minutes a day, twice a day. We don't have that luxury. We're lucky enough if we get to, walk barefoot in our homes. And so I had surgery prior to meeting you again. I had just had surgery, and the ground therapy, which by the way, you can go onto my website and click on the button there, was a life changer. It took away the majority of my pain that I was experiencing from the surgery and the scars from the surgery. And then the next life changer was brain tapping. And I have been brain tapping at least 3 times a day, because sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I just go, oh, it's time to work. It's time to calm my brain down. So it comes in a beautiful little box, and this is what it's called. It's BrainTap. And I am very, very happy to bring this to my doctors now and hopefully bring it to you. And again, it could be yours for free. You just need to go and like this post, share it with your friends, and tag a friend, and you will get a free 15-day trial, which I'm really excited. You don't need to have the headset to get the benefits. What is the percentage that people benefit from having the headset?
It's about 30% more because of the light. We know that about 70% of the brain is active to process audio signals, but 100% of your brain is activated with light signals, because the vision, your eyes are responsible for 30% of your hearing. So you want to keep, you want to keep that whole brain active as much as possible. But obviously, some people can't afford it. Others, we can't even deliver to them around the world. But they can all go to the internet with the link you give them, click on that link, download it for 15 days. They also get a copy of the book where they can learn about the research and everything else. Chapter 4 talks about the device and the science. No credit card necessary. Just go there and learn more about it. Try it for yourself. Once you try it, if you like it, great, keep doing it.
Do it for the 99 cents, yeah, and then go for the whole thing. And again, I am absolutely hooked on my BrainTap, but you do not have to have the headset. And so it's good to know. It's good to know that there's something out there that is actually rewriting the program. I interviewed Bruce Lipton a couple of times since the class started in 2011, and that was life-changing for me. So I understand how we can rewrite the program, but this is helping, because the brain will go, am I doing this right? I'm not supposed to be thinking about this. But you even say in the meditations, even if we fall asleep, even if we go into, share a little bit about that and how the brain is always learning.
Yeah, the brain never sleeps. In fact, they now know through surgeries like neurosurgery, they can touch different parts of the brain. And even times you didn't think you were paying attention, the brain chemically codes those memories into our brain. Mm-hmm. So we've done sessions with people that think they fell asleep. You know, they were out to the world, but we showed them we can do a progressive brain scan, which means we can follow their brain waves through the session, and the brain follows it because the brain is designed to do that. Even though we're sleeping, like a new mother, for instance, can hear her baby cry in 3 rooms down the hall. So we're not really sleeping, but it's really important that we get that deep sleep. But the brain will still follow through because it's more about a master brain wave, not a singular brain wave. We call it a symphony of brain waves to get them all working. And, you know, probably I've been asked to post one of those brain scans, because usually at doctors' conventions, we'll show somebody doing the session, and, you know, the person up in front sometimes will just pass out because they're so tired from the event. You know, they're sleeping in hotel rooms. They're not in their normal place. Maybe they went out the night before and drank some adult beverages, and they can't handle it. And then we put them on the machine, and they get done. They go, "I'm sorry, I fell asleep," and everybody in the room starts laughing because their brain still did all the exercises. The nice thing is that our subconscious, if you will, which controls 95% of our functions anyway, is always there. It's on guard for us. It's got our best interests at heart. And it's always there as a sentinel to make sure that if it's something good, we're gonna partake in it.
Well, I am so grateful that you created something very, very good. And for those of you, again, like this broadcast, share it with your friends, tag somebody, and you will get a free link up to the benefits of this. And I was shocked, you know, Kelly has been, she showed me that you don't need to have the headset, but she bought it. She just was waiting for the headset to come in, but she bought it. She was like, I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm just going to do this. Again, this is the app that you get, and there's lots of different, when you click on it, there's lots of different meditations in there. So start them young. I mean, I really believe that our problems in this earth with diet and nutrition will start with our children. If we train our children well, they won't ever have to deal with some of the sabotaging thoughts that we have as well. So once again, thank you so much for watching today. Dr. Patrick Porter, you know, you are traveling all over the world, you know, spreading the good news. So thank you for taking the time to be in the classroom today and being our great teacher.
Well, thank you for having me, Lily. It's been wonderful.
Anything else that you'd like to say before we go? Just
share those, click, share, like, whatever, and get tapping, and let's change the world and change our families, our friends, our coworkers by our example. That's the biggest way we can change the world, is by ourselves, changing within ourselves, and then shining that light out to others.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Porter. And I'm looking forward to a follow-up teaching session with you when we can catch you once again. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. You guys know what you need to do. let's just do it. Take ownership of your life, and that's the way you do it. So until we see each other tomorrow, which we're going to talk about sabotaging thoughts tomorrow as well. So I hope you join us then. We'll see you soon. Okay.